Let's read about Dubai Manscaped. Right now 20% off and free shipping with code FILMENTO20.
I told you, stop killing.
I got the information I needed. No one died. But you would let these go free, knowing that many more will suffer at their hands unless we end them now.
Heroes don't kill.
I'm no hero. Here we go.
Black Adam is a new DC superhero origin movie about The Rock gaining superhuman abilities and flying around the world to open a can of whoop-ass on every sorry fool who dares to oppose him, including an army of soldiers, a group of superheroes, as well as a demon from hell. In other words, it's a movie where The Rock can finally stop pretending to be a lesser version of himself and instead play the role he was born for, himself.
It's about drive, it's about power. We stay hungry, we devour. Work in the hours and take what's ours.
And in that sense, Black Adam was always destined for greatness. Not only is it headlined by an actor who is only one of two real remaining Hollywood superstars that can sell a film with their name alone, but it's also part of the Snyder side of the DCEU, which means that it has the backing of the Snyderverse fandom. A fandom so influential that they can affect a multi-billion-dollar company's release strategy. A fandom so powerful that they can literally decide who wins an Oscar and who doesn't. It's basically like Illuminati, but on Twitter.
Black Adam, we will be watching.
Unfortunately, even all that wasn't enough, because Black Adam became such a flop in theaters that it couldn't even make back its money and thus released on digital only a month later. And as I was trying to understand how that can be possible despite the strength I just mentioned, it appears to be due to what Black Adam is. As in, it's an origin movie sold as a standard shattering origin movie that doesn't work as an origin movie. It makes some of the biggest and deadliest origin movie mistakes possible in terms of the hero and the events as well as the villain, the sort of mistakes that no kind of superhuman power can salvage. And to all the Snyderverse people watching, this is not meant as an offense of any kind. Trust me, you're the last faction I want to be the enemy of. Marvel fanboys, maybe, but you, no.
I'm crazy enough to take on Marvel, but Snyderverse, no, thank you.
And so to be very clear, we're only going to be talking about this one specific negative aspect of Black Adam. Aside from that, this is obviously a 10 out of 10 movie overall. Plus, I'm obviously paid by Marvel as well. So, you know, I'm willing to be the villain for today, but only because the information will be worth it.
Shut up, bitch!
So yeah, here's a couple of key origin movie pitfalls that Black Adam stumbles into and how to avoid them in your own movie. Here's how to fail at origin. The first key origin issue here is that because the movie is about the origin of a hero, the hero doesn't yet have any kind of motivated agency and just kind of passively reacts to the world around him like a newborn baby. So basically, after what seems like an endless opening exposition dump about this fictional country called not Wakanda, we begin with our human protagonist Adriana going to the desert to find a mysterious MacGuffin, all of which you can kind of just fast forward through, until when at the 15-minute mark she gets attacked by invader mercenaries and then gives birth to The Rock in this movie.
Shiza!
And once The Rock is born, he kind of just deals with whatever the plot throws at him. He gets attacked by the mercenaries and doesn't really like that, so he lets them know. After which he blacks out and gets taken to Adriana's home, where he meets her son, who I think is part of the Snyderverse fandom. The son talks about some larger objective, but The Rock doesn't care. He doesn't really care about anything.
Where are you going?
I shouldn't be here.
And therefore, he kind of just stomps and floats around like a rhino in a jewelry store until the plot comes up with new stuff for him to do. First in form of the mercenaries attacking Adriana and his son, and then in form of the Justice Society showing up to capture him, because that's what the movie told them to do.
He's been asleep for 5,000 years. The longer he has to adapt, the harder it will be to take him down.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And after The Rock outstrengths them, he suddenly decides that he doesn't want to fight anymore and goes off screen to do nothing until the plot once again introduces the next turn in form of Adriana's son being kidnapped.
Please, save my son.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Then The Rock goes to rescue him, and then he decides he doesn't want his powers anymore and willingly gives up to become a prisoner forever, and then the movie comes back to tell him that, oh, actually, there's this ugly DC CGI monstrosity, we need you to come and fight. Which he does. The end. That's a very abridged version of it all, but what I'm getting at is that The Rock doesn't have any kind of larger meaningful objectives that he'd be constantly driving toward. He's more like a clueless dog chasing every momentary car that drives his way. And as context for what I mean, Peter Parker in Spider-Man doesn't just hang around with his new powers until the movie offers something to do with them. No, he's immediately testing his powers out. He's using the powers to get money to impress the girl he likes. He actually doesn't go for what the plot throws his way.
You could have taken that guy apart.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
A choice that then leads him to another very personal objective, to find his uncle's killer. As in, Peter Parker's agency is strong enough to push the movie rather than weak enough to be pushed around by the movie. Whereas with The Rock in Black Adam, it's the opposite. He might quite possibly be the strongest superhero we've ever had, but he's still by far among the weakest heroes we've ever had, because all that strength is for nothing. He's kicking ass in multiple fight scenes, but they don't carry any larger purpose. Once the fight is over, so is his agency. Now there's again nothing for him to do, until we've waited long enough for the plot to throw in the next thing. Which may be the point.
This is your home.
My home is gone.
But at the same time makes The Rock incredibly uncompelling and uninteresting. You know, Captain Jack is one of the strongest heroes ever created because so is his agency. In his very first shot, he's approaching the next thing he needs to complete his ultimate objective, to reclaim the Black Pearl at any cost. The scenes are born from what he does. Whereas in The Rock's first shot, he's just sitting there until someone comes over to poke him with a gun. And so the point is that even if your hero is only now born, you have to find a way to give them motivated agency that defines them more than their biceps, some kind of larger objective that they can always move toward and be hell-bent on completing. They can't be weak enough to be pushed by the plot and the events. They have to be strong enough to push the plot and make the events happen. Because at the end of the day, we don't care about a superhuman god sitting at home watching news about a human father infiltrating a criminal organization to find his missing daughter. What we care about is the father infiltrating a criminal organization to find his missing daughter. If I'm still not making sense to everyone, here's a timely way to put it. It's like knowing you have to buy a Christmas gift for someone, and instead of making it happen through that someone, you just let something happen. We all know that doesn't work, you just end up disappointing, right?
What the f is this piece of shit?
And so what you have to do instead is identify this hero you're getting the gift for, who they are and what they want, and then start building the gift from that. Oh, it's for a dad, a brother, a boyfriend. Well, there's something specific that goes with it. You get a great body trimmer they can use to shave their face and chest and, you know, the place they want to make representable if they're ever with a girl. LED lights, wireless, special skin-safe technology, great. You get a trimmer for their nose and ears as well, so those don't look out of place. You get great shower hygiene stuff, magical potions for their family jewels, anti-shaving boxers, a travel bag for everything. You know, it's the hero specifically that your gift is constructed from.
Well, thank you for this very organically constructed gift. Now I can become who I am meant to be.
Oh, and if you do need a great Christmas gift for dad, brother, boyfriend, you can get all this stuff in Manscaped's Platinum Package. I have it, you can't go wrong with it. They're even sponsoring a special 20% Filmento discount with the link below by using code Filmento20. Not only for this, but also for their amazing boxer sets as well, which are the best I've ever had. Check it out. The second key origin issue here is that the movie isn't an origin of a new identity, but rather a big mashup compilation of identities and elements we've already seen. So once again, we open in this fictional country called Kahndaq that has its own natural resource metal called Eternium, with advanced technology from it as well. And if that sounds familiar, it's because it's Black Panther with added colonization. The names have just been swapped from gobbledygook to gobbledygog, as well as the culture from African to Middle Eastern. I mean, even the music at times is very Black Pantherish. And right away, we join our human protagonists as they drive into the desert in a van, which is the same exact POV into the story as in Thor, all of which leads to Adriana waking The Rock by saying the word Shazam, because that's the origin of The Rock's powers. He basically has Shazam's powers. And then we get into this fight sequence that is sort of a remix of all the things you've seen. The physical combat itself is basically what we saw in Man of Steel, sugar-coated with Shazam's lasers, as well as a PG-13 version of the heightened violence of Deadpool. The slow-mo moment outside is basically the Quicksilver moment from X-Men with Superman's abilities. The humor of it all is very marvelous, not only in terms of the tone, but also some of the jokes, which we literally saw a couple months earlier.
God willing, we won't see him again.
Oh, and by the way, it all plays under one of the most reused songs of all time.
I think I'm about to steal!
And to be clear, that doesn't necessarily mean the sequence itself is bad. I love listening to Painted Black, one of the best songs ever. I think the Man of Steel combat is awesome and kick-ass, reminds me of the coolest DCU character so far that I desperately want to see more of. The Quicksilver moment outside works just fine. The elements used within it make it very entertaining. I'm not the biggest fan of the Marvel humor because to me it often doesn't make sense, but at least it's consistent within the movie. You know, a cool sequence overall, perhaps. But the point is that I still don't get the specialty of this particular superhero movie other than it's with The Rock. After that, The Rock wakes up in Adriana's home and meets her fatherless son, who slowly begins to make him have a heart, which becomes the main relationship of the movie. A relationship that is directly copy-pasted from T2, like down to the details.
That more catchy. I was thinking like, tell them the man in black sent you.
Tell them the man in black sent you.
Baby.
Then there's some fish-out-of-water comedy and an action beat that is lifted from another movie that we just saw play on TV. Then we get introduced to the Justice Society supergroup of heroes who get sent to detain The Rock, which to be fair could be a new thing. I don't think we've seen a dynamic about a solo hero having to take on a team of superheroes. But as for the heroes themselves, as for their method of transportation, it's all quite familiar. We have a Green Storm, we have Ant-Man in Deadpool suit, we have a buffed up Falcon, and we have a Doctor Strange copy called Dr. Fate, a master of the mystic arts who can see multiple futures and who's also filmed with Iron Man's helmet cam.
Very familiar about all this.
And once again, I'm not saying any of this is necessarily bad. I'm not even saying that the sequences don't have fresh stuff in them in terms of action and dynamics. To be honest, I like Dr. Fate more than I do Strange, because they got frickin' James Bond to play him, because DC characters usually are much more inherently interesting and cooler than their Marvel counterparts.
Congratulations, you're a prophet who wants to murder trillions.
Teth Adam, we know who you are and what you are capable of. There's no place for you in the world of man.
But what I am saying is that I still don't really get what is the special identity of the Black Adam property. You know, when I saw Spider-Man, I immediately understood the exclusivity that makes that character and property special. Whereas here, it's what? That the hero kills people even though he's told not to. Feels pretty familiar. That there's a thematic question about political jurisdiction. Feels pretty familiar. And so the point is that if you're building a new origin movie, you have to figure out what it is that makes that origin its own exclusively worthy thing. Because if the most exciting thing in it is the return of another hero, if it consists mostly of stuff pulled from elsewhere, from underwater shots, to the hero rising up for air to say a word, to another hero turning to dust, to the big bad DC CGI monstrosity, to the ending smash to credits.
So what should we call you?
Guys, I got it. Ready?
Yeah.
In that case, you're gonna have a tough time standing on your own, because you are essentially old news featuring The Rock. The third key origin issue here is that the villain isn't his own real person, but rather exists purely to serve the hero's origin. Essentially, the initial bad guys here are shown to be these mercenary colonizers oppressing Kahndaq and stealing their special natural resource. But very quickly, it becomes obvious for everyone, except for some reason our heroes, that the true antagonist here is actually this local guy. He's the one pulling the strings.
I told you to make it look real, not to punch me in the face.
He's the one bossing the mercenaries around.
Move! Don't shoot him! I need him!
He very much is the bad guy. The reason being that he's in fact the offspring of Kahndaq's king who ruled thousands of years ago. That's why he's trying to get this MacGuffin, to become powerful enough to be the new king, as is his right.
The crown crafted by our ancestors, stolen by the wizards and hidden away. Everything I need to become the next king.
And the problem is that that's all there's to it.
Oh, here we go again.
We don't know anything about this guy's personal life. We don't know anything about the hardships and struggles he's had to endure. We have no idea why he's trying to get this power and become the new king. All we have to go on, emotionally speaking, is that, well, he's a proxy of the evil king who killed The Rock's family 5,000 years ago. That's why us stopping him is so meaningful. And for context for what I'm getting at, look at Spider-Man again, at how it separated the initial agency from the ultimate villain. The bad guy isn't some dude in a green suit who just happened to be the one to kill Uncle Ben. No, as Peter is dealing with his powers and their consequences, we're at the same time building up this man called Norman Osborn, a family man business owner who gets so obsessed with saving his company that he ends up losing himself. His existence isn't dependent on Peter's origin. It's not about a hero versus the bad guy he hates. It's about this person versus this person. And that's what's missing here, the villain's side of the story. The big final battle is that the bad guy turns into another ugly DC CGI monstrosity and then raises an army of the dead so that he can rule Kahndaq as a new king.
There's no one that can defeat me.
Which is a bit weird considering that the main thematic argument here is that the world isn't black and white.
I know you're not a hero, but you're not a monster either. I don't care what anyone says.
Like, your villain is a demon from hell who shoots flames to wreck the city. You're not really leaving much gray there. And it also doesn't even make sense, because if the bad guy raised an army of the dead to kill the citizens, then who's he gonna be the king of? Like... Overall, all of this is just a poor excuse to have another dumb, loud DC CGI monstrosity finale. And so the point is that when you're building the villain for your origin movie, you have to give them a story of their own rather than just rely on them playing a part in the hero's origin. If the villain's goal here is to reclaim the status that he feels was stolen from him, then build on that. Make him more than just an already powerful guy who wants more power. What if instead of him commanding the mercenaries have a leader who's commanding him? What if he's constantly being belittled and put down by the mercenaries because despite his help, they see him the same way they do everyone else here, as a local peasant?
You're raising a barn? Shut the f***ing door! Very good.
What if this magical power is the only way for him to gain that respect he feels he, as Kahndaq's royalty, deserves? What if his intention truly is to lift Kahndaq up from under the boot of oppression, but it just gets lost? What if you keep the mercenaries as the villain to the end instead of an army of the dead? What if it actually is the people of Kahndaq who rise up to beat their enemies instead of The Rock actually being the one to do it? What if the finale is more about people, about this person going against this person because their personal journeys just cannot coexist? You know, instead of The Rock fighting some dude from his personal journey in form of a dumb DC CGI monstrosity that looks to have been designed by a 5-year-old. Overall, what I'm saying is that if your villain is just a footnote in your hero's origin story, you're in trouble. Because when the world of the hero exists solely for the hero, we're all gonna know and feel for a fact that this world is fake.